Hello viewers, welcome to our program on immigration and you. I am your immigration attorney Michael Fulwani, and once again we are with us my law partner David Nachman. David, welcome.
Thanks so much, Michael.
An interesting program today. But before that, let us wish them it's the end of the summer almost, and schools are going to open up. You're getting ready, have fun, enjoy before again get into the 30s.
Back to the grind.
Temperatures.
Back to the grind. Yeah.
Okay, so there's something very interesting that some of you may be interested, or some of you may want to go to your temples and the priests and all that and give them some of this good news. What I'm talking about today is about immigrant visas for religious workers and priests. The law before was that in order to qualify for that, first of all, there has to be a religious institution there, which is a non-profit organization, like a temple, like a mosque, like a church, and that is sponsoring that priest or the religious worker. So that's on one side. So that remains the same. There's no change on that. The change is that the requirement was that to qualify, the person must have 2 years of experience in that work, being a religious worker or a priest, maybe in their home country before coming or after coming. But after coming, once you are in the US, and it said that you must be in a lawful status, and then only that 2-year period will be a qualifying period. So this change that happens, I think, by a court decision, and then the Department of Homeland Security have accepted it now, implemented, that if a person, a priest is here, and that he's relying upon on the basis of the experience that he gained here in unlawful status, that is also okay. So I know that several people that came for applying for a priest or something, and they say that they were out of the status, or they still worked for 2 years, continue to work, and we said, sorry, this experience is gained while you were in unlawful status, no good. Now this picture has changed. Now let me see, David has made any comments on this.
Well, I think that Michael, it's important for our viewers to understand that while this change is somewhat important, it doesn't take away from the fact that the bases for inadmissibility with regard to adjustment have been changed. They have not been changed. So what essentially this does, as Michael properly points out,
it's only changed to 6 months. You remember the provision for the employment cases is, I think, 245K.
K, that's right.
Which they have now clarified that 245K applies even to the religious priests here.
Absolutely.
So up to 6 months if they overstayed,
correct,
that should be fine.
Correct.
But that was not clear before. Now they have clarified that even this applies to religious workers.
Right. And with regard to the 2 years now, they're saying that an individual who didn't have work auth, and this is basically where it comes up, is that an individual who was working for a religious not-for-profit religious organization performing traditional religious functions had to be in valid status in order to be able to take advantage of applying for the special immigrant visa petition for the green card. Now they're saying the individual did not have to be in valid status. And so that's really what the case says. And again, it doesn't take away from the fact that this individual, notwithstanding the fact that they may have had 2 years out of status, they still have other hurdles that they may have to jump over for the purposes of adjusting their status. But at least what we're finding is that they didn't actually have to have an employment authorization. Their work could have been performed while the individual was out of status, and that's the value.
Let me also say something about the fraud. In religious workers' cases, there were lots of fraud happened in the past. We know that people will. I know there was a small church, little church, that sponsored 600 people. 600 priests. 600 priests could not even stand there. Or why would they need 600 priests working in a little place like that? So that person was arrested and went to jail. But because of heavy duty fraud, it was so easy just to get a letter from a temple and then apply. That's what they were doing.
Right.
So they have become very strict now. Now, when the petition is filed with the Immigration Service for either a priest or religious worker case, the immigration people now is required an inspection. They will go and they will send an officer to go to the temple, to talk to them, to see this person is working or not, and whether it's a real temple or not, how big is the temple, how many priests are working and all that. So bear in mind that this takes some time, more time than the temple which already got inspection, then they don't have to go through the process again.
Exactly. And Michael, I'd just like to elaborate on that. You said a lot of fraud, and I think that we really need to explain that what ended up happening was the CRS, I believe it was Congressional Research Service, did an examination of the visas, the religious worker visas, and found that almost 1/3 of them were fraudulent visas. And it's not any big surprise, at least not to me. And then what they did was they implemented what are called site visits. Yes. And those site visits can take two forms. As Michael properly points out, one of them is where an FDNS officer, and we, at least here in New Jersey, we find that the FDNS officers will actually go out and visit the religious site. They will go and speak to the priest or the rabbi or the minister, get an idea of the types of programs that the religious organization, and ask, and ask to see the records. We have actually been involved in FDNS investigations with religious organizations where they've actually been very good. What they've actually done is said, please bring the individual who's in charge of the organization to the district office for an interview. So we've done that. And so it doesn't even have to be a site visit. It can actually be an interview at the district office. So it really is, it's discretionary to the officer who's performing the site visit whether or not they want to do it on site or whether they want to do it off site. And ultimately what ends up happening is that once the site visit is done, then you can continue to submit the applications. The thing is that, and then you don't usually get site visits thereafter. So that's one of the nice things about it. But it is.
David, I'll tell you. Many years ago, and even now we go to India, I used to do lectures, and in the lectures, one of the categories we'll talk about the religious workers. So I said, what is the requirement? I said, 2 years work in a temple or something. Oh, no problem. I just go and get Garurata, what your saffron clothes. For 2 years I wear on, I'll go to temple and I'll get a letter from them, then you get me a green card. I say, it's not that easy. It's not that simple, because you are not looking at only the 2-year experience. They are also looking at the petitioner. When that temple files the paper, they want to see their documents, their non-profit organization, religious organization, how many members are there, and is it functional or not. Because people had their homes. One room they use of the temple, and they say this is temple.
Right.
So I said there's a lot of issues, and this person, and I had interviews. I seen where my client will go for interview, and the officer will say, okay, do you know the 8th part of the Gita, something? Tell me, recite it. And guy, they cannot remember even. And I think one of the questions was so simple, every child knows. What's the name of Rama's wife? And we know all Sita, but he couldn't remember. Say, I don't remember. Say, get out. If you're a priest and you don't know the name of the wife of Lord Rama. So it's like that. Basically, people have to understand that the consulates or the immigration service, they all look at all the documents, paper, they have to be satisfied. No fraud. Not just by putting a saffron cloth, you become a priest. It's not enough.
Right. Well, maybe I should also give our viewers a little background on the religious worker visa. It's called an R1, and there is a non-immigrant religious worker visa, and there's also an immigrant religious worker visa. The R1 actually has 3 different types of classifications. R1As are for ministers, priests, and rabbis who are ordained. R2s are for professional religious workers. These are individuals who have the equivalence of a U.S. baccalaureate degree and are performing professional services for the not-for-profit religious organization. These would be individuals, for example, they could be Sunday school teachers or religious school teachers or even script writers, things like that. And then you have the R13 or R1Cs. Those individuals are performing a traditional religious function. So these might be people who are raising money for charity. They could be individuals who are nuns. They could be people who are out doing some type of work in the community, which is affected, right?
See, like in Sikh gurdwaras, these people call kirtans.
Exactly,
they come in
right.
Sing it. In Hindu temples, they come and sing some prayers and songs. So basically, they are involved. There has to be the member of the same religion. In other words, if the person is working in a Sikh temple in India and a Hindu temple, is sponsored, they may not be good enough. because then the Gurdwara should sponsor him.
Right.
So it has to be the same kind of...
Exactly, and the officers are going to be focused on making
Yes.
sure that there are not inconsistencies.
Correct.
And so so you have non-immigrant visas, and then after 2 full years of work in that either R1A, B, or C function, then you can transfer to a green card. Okay, by making a green card application, which is very similar to the R1 type of application. It's a step up in terms of scrutiny, but after the full 2 years, you have an opportunity, of course, then to apply for the green card.
See, the requirement of a 2 years experience to be in the US is okay, not required, because we've done so many priests who are living in India only, and whether Gurdwaras or Hindu temple, even mosque or they have the 2-year full-time proper experience there. And here is a temple or a church or a mosque that is sponsoring them. They have to file a petition 360 here, give all the documents of his work experience and all that, and look at the papers and documents, tax returns and all the papers of the temple, and then the immigration service also do the site inspection.
Exactly.
Then they approve the petition. When the petition is approved, goes through the normal process of Vermont Service Center, and they go to the consulate. Now, remember, at the time of consulate, also they interview releases workers pretty thoroughly. They even verify. They keep pending cases under 221G pending while they complete the investigation, while they go to Gurdwara or the temple or the mosque and verify whatever certificates are given. Because they had a fraudulent certificate, we found. They just got a stationery of the temple and typed something, and somebody in their friend in the temple will sign it. And when they ask the person, he said, "We never heard about this man. What are you talking about?" So you have to be very careful.
Exactly. So, so again, FDNS will do investigations. I think it's important. One of the things also that we've recently noticed is that there are task force investigations. Yeah. Where it is the U.S. Department of State, it's the U.S. Department of Labor, and it's the USCIS that are getting together and going out and doing investigations of not-for-profit religious organizations and even for-profit organizations. Yeah. So IT companies and so on. So one of the things is be very careful about the details that are placed in these petitions. Make sure the individuals who are being transferred to the United States know the details in the petitions. It's not just enough to send someone, have them come in and then not help them to understand what the details were about the original petition that was done.
I recall changing the subject. A couple of questions came to my mind from our viewers. Can a person who already has applied for a DACA, a Nepalese, and he wants to apply for a TPS? I don't think there's any problem.
I would agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, people that have a permission to work and travel to their country, not their country, but any place outside of their country, should they be concerned about traveling? Some people say, I'm worried. Yes, I would say that there may be something in the background of that person, they should be worried. And then we have to discuss about what the problem is, what the issue is, can it come in the way, or what can be done or what cannot be done.
Well, I agree, Michael. I mean, I think every circumstance is different, but I think that at the end of the day, you and I both know that staying, the conservative advice is don't travel, stay put, because every time you travel, you take a risk. And there's nothing that we can do to be able to quantify that risk because we don't know what's in the database. You don't know what's in the database. We don't have access to the database. Our clients will call us and they'll say, what do you think is in the database? And we'll say, well, you can certainly do a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request. And recently, as you know, there have been some liberalizations about what type of information we can get out of FOIA. But still, you just never know. We recently had a client who we did a FOIA request and we got nothing back. And the client thought that he could go ahead and travel, and he did. And it did not go well for him. And that was a choice that he made after we told him not to travel. But unfortunately, we're not the ones who control the situation. The clients make the decisions.
Another question is, a person, a Nepalese, and again, coming back to the TPS, he is under deportation proceedings, or there's a deportation order against him. Can he still apply? And would that be all right? I guess so. I guess that if he's a TPS and he cannot go back to his own country, then you can make an application to the judge that he applies for this TPS.
Well, yeah,
and submit or make a motion
You'd-
to reopen the case.
well,
or
you'd actually make a motion to administratively close the
Close it,
case
yes.
for the TPS benefit.
Correct.
But then the question becomes, should that individual travel? And I think the answer is no. And I think that the answer is not because he's traveling back to his country or not. The fact is that there's a deportation order or at least an NTA in the database, and that's going to cause a secondary inspection, which could go very badly for the individual.
Bottom line is that case is stopped now.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to worry. Once he get a TPS, he continues to stay here. Then we'll see what other changes take place and all that.
Exactly. Michael, I know we're drawing to the end and drawing to the end of the summer. So with that, let's wish our viewers happy rest of the summer. Enjoy yourselves before we get back to the rough times of the fall.
And whatever time is left out, you go for vacation, have fun. eat some
Enjoy.
food, enjoy.
Enjoy.
Enjoy before the summer is over. And thank you very much, David, for coming on the program.
Thank you,
all of
Michael.
for watching the program. Please keep watching us every Saturday and Sunday at 11:45 a.m. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Bye for now.